resonating with your audiences. Now, looking at the evolution of hip hop from mid-'80s to where we are now, one of the things that I'm always interested in, especially with the arts and culture, is the fact that as entrepreneurs, you guys are always faced with trying to find new venues, trying to find ways to get that message out there, because there isn't necessarily a mainstream medium to be used. Based on the delivery of your arts and your mediums, how has the consumption of your work evolved over the years in terms of your working relationships with the audiences that you sell tickets to, and even further, the businesses that give you access to the venues and things of that nature? Anybody can speak to those experiences?
I mean, the major issue that I have really around venues is that, you know, a lot of the poetry crowd just doesn't drink alcohol. And, you know, venues want to make money, and poetry people just like to come and sit and, you know, just be cute and listen. So that's really the main difficulty that I have. Apart from that, there's never any fights, any quarrels, any kind of anything. So people are always happy to have that audience there. You know, I haven't done too much in terms of doing events with hip-hop artists on the bill, because I know who my audience is, I know, you know, their thing, and I think a lot of hip-hop artists, the ones that succeed in my kind of environment are the ones who are actually very lyrical, and the ones who, I always say there's a big difference between those who rap and those who write. The ones who actually write, they can do very well, because the people that come to my events have an expectation for what they want to hear, and people think you can just come and string a bunch of words together that rhyme, and that's going to go over. And, you know, people have come there and flopped and been like, what happened? And it's like, no, you gotta do better than that, because the expectation is a bit different. So because of that, I mean, it's always, we don't, you know, promote too many hip-hop artists in the events that we do, but I mean, if there are people that are truly lyrical, then by all means we encourage them to come out, do their thing, and see how it goes.
I think,
yeah, for yourself.
It's just been an evolution to different mediums. It's more of an online thing right now, as far as your community can be more a lounge and a message board than right in front of your face, because especially with hip-hop events, people have lacked the strength of marketing. I like Dwayne's events because they always have a branding, and you know what is going to happen, and it's an established thing that goes on year after year. We kind of lack that in the hip-hop community out here. Many people have tried and succeeded in a 2-3 year span, but if we can get something that can go beyond that, which encompasses all those new elements, the online elements and different aspects of how people get involved in hip-hop, then we can have a long-term successful event. So that's kind of how it's changed.
Now, considering the fact that technology is really prevalent in a lot of the ways we deliver our messages nowadays, is there any worry that the distance that technology obviously has will take away from the community building and the nurturing that you would have one-on-one with an audience when it's live, and or purchasing a CD at a HMV or whatever have you?
I mean, that's not really something that I worry about. I mean, I understand that as a part of the reality, but I mean, it comes down to who you choose, how you choose to look at things. I mean, there's the one-on-one connection I have, you know, with a young person in Scarborough, but through technology, I can also have a one-on-one interaction with a young person in Germany at the same time. So it's a matter of, do I want to just solely be able to reach this kid in Scarborough, or is there also value in being able to reach some kid in another part of the world through using the technology? So for me, it's always bigger than you know, my current situation, and it's always about, all right, well, if people in different parts of the world are doing X, Y, and Z, how can I get involved in many of the things that are happening? And that has opened a lot of doors for me to be able to perform internationally and that sort of thing. So I never try to just limit myself to only having my reach being where I can physically be, but using the technology in such a way that I can be in many places as possible, so that whoever would gain value from me in person can gain value from me in some other way as well.
Well, my only thing is that it's an accountability thing. The content you talk about in your songs, if you try to run that in a live venue, first of all, when you're not about it, when you don't represent something, you'll get checked at the venue. This is a natural, great history of hip-hop, and it doesn't even have to do with violence or this or that. It has to do with, you got to speak the real if you're going to be at an event. People have lost that a little bit, so they can say anything they want and just throw it out there. And that's the glory of a place like Toronto especially. It's a bit indifferent at times as far as audiences, but it weeds out so much of the nonsense. Like, if you get a great response in Toronto, you know you're doing something right. And I know Dwayne can attest to that too. And a lot of artists, it has birthed a growth in so many artists. So that's what we're missing a little bit, is that one-on-one accountability of content, of knowing your audience and things like that. So.
Now, talking to Dwayne Morgan and Theology 3 in the building right now, we're breaking down arts and culture and talking about the impact of hip-hop culture on the arts across the country. Now, I was speaking to Luther Brown, who is dance choreographer, judge on Canadian Idol, things of that nature. He sends his regards. He wanted to be here, but had an engagement in Peru, which is the life of, you know, a Canadian Idol judge. But with him, they've established the fact that hip-hop culture is prevalent across the country because they have routines that are wholly based in the genre of hip-hop, and seeing that it's able to reach into the households. It's able to reach into the households of audiences across Canada. Now, we talked about the technology component and the fact that beyond your own block, beyond your own city, there's ways and avenues in which you need to engage people, you know, around the world. Dwayne talked about Germany. Let's talk about Vancouver, Nova Scotia, Winnipeg. Both of you have traveled to all of those different areas and have had opportunities to deliver your mediums in those communities. Hip-hop is still prevalent in what you do. In those communities, it's not Toronto. It's not that cosmopolitan, urban first, everything else second. How do you deliver your message in those kind of communities? With that being said.
I don't ever change my message. Really, my message is a universal message. So I write, everything that I write is about the human condition. It's about human stories. So I think as long as you're alive and you have a heart and you have, you know, compassion and empathy, then there's nothing to change. That's just what the story is. So whether you're rich, you're poor, you're black, you're white, you're from East Coast, West Coast, it's a human story, and that's what I try to. That's the level I try to connect with people on. That you know, we're just humans. We're going through different things. So whether it be social, politics, racism, sex, whatever, this is all stuff that we all deal with, and so I never change anything that I do. It's just where I'm actually doing it.
No, it's totally true. You don't really have to change because people will gravitate to what you bring to the table. I mean, Sarah McLachlan doesn't do a death metal set in Surrey, BC, and then sing love songs in you know, Quebec. It's like, we don't have to be held to a different standard, especially as the tastemakers and trendsetters in hip-hop culture that we are. People are naturally going to come to our venues and listen to our songs, as Dwayne said. So it's up to us to expand upon that after we've caught them and caught their attention.
Definitely. Music is a form of expression, and hip-hop is a part of how we as Canadians express ourselves. Not just in the urban community, but widespread. Hip-hop has given a voice and a medium for people to share themselves in ways that don't necessarily involve having to rhyme at excessive speeds over drum patterns. It has been proven to be found behind the camera, on screens, on palettes, and in the way that we move to music and build our communities. Hip-hop is apparent in the makeup of our neighbors and, yes, even our Canadian households. In the next segment, we'll review how hip-hop has been incorporated into the lifestyle choices of the average Canadian. But first, we'll pause to listen to a sampling of Canadian new music artists inside an episode of The Maple Mix. That, all after a quick commercial break. You're listening to Canada's Getting Colder, a documentary review on the perspective of Canadian hip-hop culture's impact on Canadians. And further than that point, you are listening to CHRY 105.5.
You're listening to Canada's Getting Colder, a joint perspective on Canadian hip-hop culture.
Feel a breeze blow while the days fly by as I jot my life down line by line. Picture me without rap, man, that sound wrong, I can't lie. It's something like coca without the cola. Stop, bump and watch through your block in the form of hip-hop, and why not? If you can't feel that, you in the pine box. I remember colder days where the pain and gray, but when the music played, that was sun rays. Yo, she been part of my soul from 5 years old, made the picture fit, painted like Picasso, had me amped on the dance floor.